Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a 12-team PPR mock draft from the 7th overall spot using FantasyPros Draft Wizard. The roster positions for today's mock are 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, flex, kicker, defense, and 6 bench spots. In today's mock draft, we're going to be drafting up against the ESPN Sleeper and NFL ADP. But before we could get into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter or X, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. And if you would like access to my PPR or half PPR cheat sheet and rankings, they're available on the Patreon, link in the video description, for $7.50. So without further ado, let's get into this 12-team PPR mock draft from the 7th overall spot. So drafting from the 7th overall pick, a majority of the time, 2 or 3 of the big 3 running backs are going to be gone, that being Christian McCaffrey, Breece Hall, and Bijan Robinson. CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, always going to be gone. And then one of Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and Amon-Ra St. Brown will be available. This draft begins with McCaffrey, Lamb, Hill, Jefferson, Breece Hall, and Jamar Chase. Now, Jamar Chase did not end up returning to practice like the reports were pointing towards. That is definitely making me panic slightly. Ultimately, I do think something will eventually be figured out with the contract. But as of right now, I am at least a little nervous. Am I in full-on panic mode? DEFCON 5? No. I'm definitely a little bit worried. So looking at the best players available here, it would either be Bijan or Amon-Ra St. Brown. You could basically flip a coin on whether you want a running back or a wide receiver here. Since this is a 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league, you don't have to give some crazy bump up for the wide receiver position, because it's not like you could be starting 4+ wide receivers every single week. In this scenario, you could start 3, maximum 2 in your wide receiver spot and 1 in your flex. The same case would be with running back. You could at max start 3 of them. I'm going to go with Amon-Ra St. Brown here because I think that is the most accurate representation of what would actually happen. If Bijan was here, I would consider taking him, but Amon-Ra St. Brown is my wide receiver 3. Amon-Ra St. Brown is an uber safe pick inside of the first round. The Detroit Lions should be one of the best offenses in the National Football League. Amon-Ra St. Brown is their #1 target in this offense. Jared Goff loves throwing him the ball. The man put up over 1,500 yards and 10 touchdowns last season, and he could easily do it yet again. I expect this offense to be incredibly fun again. I expect that Amon-Ra St. Brown will yet again be one of the best wide receivers in fantasy football. And at the 7th pick, he feels like a much safer selection compared to Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson. After Amon-Ra St. Brown, Bijan Robinson, Jonathan Taylor, A.J. Brown, Garrett Wilson, Saquon Barkley, Puka Nacua, Jahmyr Gibbs, Marvin Harrison Jr., Kyren Williams, and Devontae Adams. Kyren Williams, the news on him about him returning punts. Does it scare me a little bit? Yes. Am I jumping overboard, abandoned ship on Kyren Williams? No. The reason why you might want to be potentially slightly nervous is because Kyren Williams has gotten hurt a decent amount in his career, and returning punts puts you in some danger. Ultimately, though, if I already liked Kyren Williams, which I do, it doesn't really scare me too much. Obviously, it's not the best case scenario, but I don't think it's something that we should really be dropping Kyren Williams down our rankings really at all. If you wanted to drop him down 1 spot, go ahead. But if you're already in on Kyren Williams, I don't really think you should be moving him. After that, we already have Amon-Ra St. Brown. So the question here is, do we want to go wide receiver or running back? Travis Etienne, Isaiah Pacheco, Devon Achane, Derrick Henry. So looking based upon ADP at the running back position, Travis Etienne, pick 18. We see Pacheco, 19. Derrick Henry, pick 17. I have all 4 of these running backs ranked incredibly close. So if you wanted to go running back here, you could roll a 4-sided die like you're playing fucking Dungeons and Dragons in your mom's basement. And while that is like a joke, haha, you're a fucking nerd if you play Dungeons and Dragons. I've played it before. It's actually kind of fun. I'm not going to lie. So here, I'm going to go running back. I'm a big fan of Drizzy Drake London, but honestly, I feel like Drake London, Olave, some of these guys are just kind of risky. Like, I don't think London's as risky as people make him out to be, but obviously we haven't really seen a consistent season out of London. Chris Olave's quarterback is an absolute fucking disgrace to the quarterback position. So I'm going to go running back here. You can flip your coin. Pacheco does get a new backfield mate in Samaje Perine. Doesn't concern me too much when it comes to Isaiah Pacheco's production. Maybe he loses some receiving value, but I still think he is going to get a bunch of dump-offs this year. Derrick Henry feels like a pretty safe pick outside of the fact that the guy's getting up there in age. He was still very good in Tennessee last year, and his stats kind of were jeopardized by the fact that the Tennessee Titans offensively weren't very good. They were getting smacked down in games, and they had to go away from the running late, and then they'd bring in Tajay Spears. So you could pick any of these four guys. We're going to go with Pacheco this time. After Isaiah Pacheco, Derrick Henry, Travis Etienne, Drizzy Drake London, Brandon Ayuk. Now, the report is that Brandon Ayuk might be reporting to practice soon. We shall see, right? I am pretty off of drafting Ayuk right now inside of the second round. Now, if he gets signed today, they give him that big fat deal, then go ahead and draft him in the late second, the early third. But right now, with the reports of him not potentially showing up for week 1, if he's still a 49er, that he's going to continue to hold out, there is no way I'm taking that immense amount of risk inside the second round. It's ridiculous. Josh Allen, Jalen Waddle, Travis Kelce, Pat Mahomes, Sam Laporta, Michael Pittman Jr., and Mike Evans. Jalen Waddle is dealing with an injury, but based upon everything I have read, based upon everything that I've heard, it is nothing to be uber concerned with. So right now, if Devon Achane was available at pick 31, I would take him every single time. Devon Achane, while quote-unquote risky because they have other players on the team like Raheem Mostert, obviously most notably, who could take away touches from Devon Achane. They also draft Jalen Wright. Frankly, I think Devon Achane, even if he isn't jolted into an insane amount of Christian McCaffrey workload, which he was never going to get, this is a guy that has league-winning upside. Any given game could go for 30-plus points. But Josh Jacobs is still available, and I think that Josh Jacobs is more likely to actually be available in the middle of the third round. So we're going to go with Josh Jacobs here, passing up on Devon Achane. If this was a real draft, though, and Achane fell to me, I would have taken Achane. But that is not to discredit Josh Jacobs, as I have been banging the drum for Josh Jacobs all summer long, like that Kid Rock song. I think that Josh Jacobs is the clear lead back in Green Bay. A.J. Dillon now out for the season. Rookie Marshawn Lloyd is banged up. They don't really have a crazy amount of depth behind Josh Jacobs. And while a lot of people are talking about how he's not going to get this crazy workload, which I also kind of believe because in Vegas, he was having a fucking 5-star Michelin meal cooked by fucking Ratatouille level meal, you know, with the Raiders. They were just feeding him the ball left and right. It's pretty obvious that was going to take a tone down in Green Bay, but now with all these injuries around him, he might see a crazy workload, and even if he doesn't, his efficiency is going to be a lot better this season. He's not going to be facing as many stacked boxes because of how great the Packers offense is all around, and I'm very excited about Josh Jacobs this season in the third round. I think he's better than Aaron Jones was because Aaron Jones is a little bit older, and if Aaron Jones didn't get hurt last year, though, Aaron Jones would have had a sick year, which is what I think Josh Jacobs is going to do. After Jacobs, Achane, Joe Mixon, Rashad White, Jalen Hurts, James Cook, Nico Collins, Cooper Kupp, Kenneth Walker, DK Metcalf, and Stephon Diggs. Lamar Jackson still available. Trey McBride still available if you're looking for a quarterback or a tight end. ADP-wise, Lamar falling slightly at ADP 39. We're currently at pick 42. Trey McBride's ADP is pick 48. Very unlikely that he swings back around to us in the 5th round based upon ADP. But based upon what I know about fantasy football drafts, a lot of the time Andrews will get taken ahead of him. So there is a chance we could get McBride inside of the 5th round. I think you could also go for the Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews stack with Andrews' ADP being pick 47. But I wouldn't really guarantee that being the case because you don't even know if they will fall back to you. Now, 2 teams here already have a quarterback, 2 teams have a tight end, so it wouldn't be all that crazy if the stack fell to you. But at the exact same time, if you take Lamar Jackson here, there's still 1, 2, 3, 4 teams without a tight end, so you probably won't even be able to get that stack. Look at our team: Pacheco, Josh Jacobs, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Taking the range of running back in Alvin Kamara, James Cook, Aaron Jones at this point would be useless. I get that Alvin Kamara has that crazy upside to catch a bunch of balls, right? The guy is going to be sucking in passes like his name was Kirby, and I love Alvin Kamara, but with the fact that we already have Jacobs and Pacheco, I'd like to build out other positions, whether that's quarterback, wide receiver, or tight end. We are going to lean with wide receiver here. Deebo Samuel is a pick that I really am not all that interested in because I think Ayuk might stay. Now, if Ayuk was gone, I would like Deebo Samuel. Him falling into the 4th round, though, compared to his normal ADP is a bit more enticing, though. I will give you that. But DJ Moore, inside of the 4th round, I'm going to take him every single time and twice on Sunday. DJ Moore has the upside to be a top 8, top 5 wide receiver in fantasy football this year. Caleb Williams is a huge upgrade compared to Tyson Bagent and Justin Fields. Obviously, it's a more crowded wide receiver room with new wide receivers, Keenan Allen, formerly of the Chargers, and with Rome Odunze. But frankly, I still think DJ Moore is the locked and loaded number 1. Malik Neighbors has some insane aura. The guy was able to get a number unretired. He used to be number 9, I believe, and now he is number 1. Shout out. He was number 1. So Malik Neighbors that's kind of crazy in my opinion that they unretired a number for him. I love Malik Neighbors, but there is no way I am taking Malik Neighbors over DJ Moore. I'd probably take Deebo over Malik Neighbors as well. Next up, after that, we see Deebo Samuel, Alvin Kamara, Lamar Jackson, Devontae Smith, Malik Neighbors, Amari Cooper, Trey McBride, Ron Jones, James Conner, DeAndre Swift, which is an awful 5th round pick, Mark Andrews, and CJ Stroud. As you guys can see, Rashee Rice's ADP is moving up. His ECR has moved up 5 spots this week. Woo, shiver me timbers. His ADP is in the 5th round. I know it might not tell you that, but if you are in a league with people that have their head screwed on correctly, Rashee Rice is going to go in the 5th round. Now, if you're drafting with a bunch of people with the IQ of fucking Forrest Gump, then maybe you might be able to run to the draft board and select Rashee Rice in, the 70s range, but I don't think that's going to end up happening. I think if you want Rashee Rice, you got to hop on him, inside of the 5th round. Now, we have taken Rashee Rice in so many of these mock drafts, and I do preach to, hey, diversify your teams, try to do things differently every single time. So I wouldn't want to have 100% Rashee Rice. I wouldn't want to have 100% of any player. I guess technically that's a little bit of a lie because if you're in like the 13th round and you love Rico Dowdle or you love this other player that's going past round 10, sure, go ahead and take him to every single fucking league because it won't hurt as much if your 10th plus round pick gets hurt or is a straight up bust compared to your 5th round pick, right? Despite the fact that we love Rashee Rice, taking him every single time in the 5th round is a little bit crazy, despite my love for him. Anthony Richardson is available here. We, on the Notorious Fantasy YouTube channel, as if there's multiple people on the channel, it's just fucking me, myself, and I love Anthony Richardson. Big risk, big reward. Anthony Richardson could be the number 1 quarterback in fantasy football, or he could get hurt brushing his teeth. He goes to brush his teeth, and the fucking toothbrush goes through his cheek, and he's out for the season, right? Or he ends up stubbing his toe in the morning. That hurts so bad. If you guys you're going to go take a piss in the middle of the night and you just stub your toe on your bed trying to get back in, brutal. Everyone has experienced that. That's the type of injury that will cause Anthony Richardson to have internal bleeding from his toenail cracking, right? Anthony Richardson's risky, but the upside is damn near incredible, which is why I like him so much. But again, we can't keep glazing the guy because we take him so often, and people will be like, Nick, it's unrealistic that you would take him in all these leagues, because it's true. I do try to be diverse with my selections, but taking CJ Stroud over Anthony Richardson is stupid. Talked about it in yesterday's video. Why is it stupid? Because CJ Stroud needs to do so much to reach that quarterback 1, the pinnacle, whereas all Anthony Richardson needs to do is run a bunch. CJ Stroud, with limited rushing upside, needs to do a lot more. He needs to have one of those great seasons to finish as a quarterback 1, whereas Richardson could luck box into, a bunch of rushing touchdowns and end up at the top. So here we're going to go ahead and draft Dalton Kincaid. Dalton Kincaid Pitts are basically a 50-50 for me. I probably will end up more with Kyle Pitts due to the fact that he falls later in drafts, but I'm a big fan of Dalton Kincaid as well. While we do like to talk about how Keon Coleman has a lot of upside because Josh Allen loves him, the team drafted him highly, and Josh Allen pushed for that, and he saw a lot of snaps in preseason. But ultimately, Dalton Kincaid is the most proven player on this team, pass catcher, I guess, outside of Curtis Samuel, who has like 3 good games every year. So Dalton Kincaid, solid red zone upside, and was very solid last year in his rookie year. They do still have Dawson Knox one time if you're with me on the team, but I still think Dalton Kincaid clears him very clearly and is the number 1 tight end on this team. After Kincaid, Zay Flowers, George Kittle, Timbers, Anthony Richardson, Teehee, Higgins, Joe Shiesty, Calvin Ridley, Ramondre Stevenson, Tank Dell, George Pickens, and Kyle Pitts. So Rashee Rice falls back to us here. Again, if this is my home league draft, I am going to draft Rashee Rice in half of a second, right? It wouldn't even be a thought. You know how we're sitting here, we're debating, oh, should we take this guy? Should we take that guy? In my head, zombie, right? I would just instantly draft Rashee Rice. But again, I don't believe he will really be available here in a lot of leagues. Now, again, if you're drafting with a bunch of fucking Neanderthals, then maybe he'll be available, right? If you're drafting with a bunch of people that think that Rashee Rice is going to get arrested, they're going to throw away the key, and he's going to get suspended for the whole season, go ahead and wait on him. But 5th, 6th round, I mean, this spot would probably be the minimum where he falls to. In my home league, I think he went in either the 4th or the 5th round. You can check the tape because I made a video about it, so you can just go ahead and watch that. So right here at wide receiver, I'm starting to get a little bit higher on Terry McLaurin. Now, I like Terry McLaurin in the same range as Godwin, as Deontay Johnson, Jalen Reed. I do like Rashee Rice more, but again, I think it's a little bit unrealistic. So we're going to go with Terry McLaurin here. Terry McLaurin's been a guy that has basically been fucked over by his quarterback position his whole entire career. Terry McLaurin has had Dwayne Haskins, RIP. He's had Sam Howell. Just off the top of the head, I think he's had some other shit tier quarterbacks as well, like Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think Matt Fitzpatrick's a golfer from Ireland, but maybe that's also wrong. Shout out to Conor McGregor, also from Ireland. Terry McLaurin, age 28, has never really had that superstar season, but I think that Jaden Daniels is legit, and Jaden Daniels should be able to take Terry McLaurin over the top. But I've been a Terry McLaurin glazer for years, and it's really never paid off. After Terry McLaurin, David Montgomery, Dak Prescott, Keenan Allen, Raheem Mostert, Zamir White, Rashee Rice, Najee Harris, Jordan Love Me Tender, Love Me Sweet, Christian Kirk, Tony Pollard, Chris Godwin, and Deontay Johnson. So we're still without a quarterback. Kyler falls our way at pick 79. Kyler Murray's ADP currently sits at pick 71, so it is possible that we would get him if one of your league mates takes Jordan Love over Kyler Murray. They simply don't know ball. I think Jordan Love on paper, he could end up being a better quarterback in his career than Kyler Murray, but in fantasy football, it's not all about being the best player, right? Patrick Mahomes is the best fucking quarterback in the NFL, but I'm not taking him as the quarterback 1. He didn't finish as the quarterback 1 last year, even though he was the guy at the end of the year lifting up the Lombardi and kissing that thing, spitting on that thing, Hawk Tua style. That joke is just so fucking cringe, but Kyler would be the pick here. But I do want to do a draft where we take a quarterback a little bit later, considering we just really haven't done that recently. So we're going to end up going wide receiver, building out some more wide receiver depth on this squad. No need to take a running back in this range, as we already have Pacheco and Jacobs, who are locked in 1-2 punch. So Jalen Reed is the obvious pick here. Jalen Reed should be the wide receiver 1. In the Green Bay Packers offense, I believe heavily in Jordan Love. I think that Jalen Reed's efficiency stats were incredible last year. Now, it's going to be a little bit frustrating week in, week out with Jalen Reed, because Jalen Reed's a guy that he's on a team that they're going to use a lot of wide receivers. So Jalen Reed might get lost in rotation every once in a while, but overwhelmingly for the whole season is a guy that, sure, he might be a little bit more risque, but his upside is through the roof. After Jalen Reed, Nick Chubb drafted a guy that tore his ACL, I think it was the MCL, and the meniscus. He tore the ACL and another CL, and he's already on the IR, going to miss the first 4 games, but let's draft him in the 7th round, guys. What could go wrong with that, right? What could go wrong with the guy whose fucking leg got bent in the opposite direction? What can go wrong with that, guys? Nothing, right? That's what people are thinking. Nick Chubb, Cleveland Browns, Hollywood Brown, Javonte Williams, Christian Watson, Brian Robinson, JSN, Brandon Brooks, Jonathan Brooks, Xavier Worthy, and Zach Moss. Kyler Murray still available, but again, I think that is highly unrealistic. So back up on the clock here. The running back range is starting to feel like we're going to fall off of a cliff here if we don't go with a running back. Jalen Warren still banged up, expected to be ready for week 1, though. Hamstring injuries can linger. Hamstring injuries could reappear in the shadows and take you out, hit you with a sweet chin music while you're walking down the alleyway, hit you with a lock in a sock, take you out, right? Like Vito took out that dude. What the fuck is his name in The Sopranos? The dude that's dating Meadow. If you know, you know. That guy who's really annoying, honestly. I did not like that character. Jackie Jr. I mean, the guy seems like a nice guy in real life, but his fucking character's annoying. Spoiler alert for a show that was 20 years old. Haven't seen that already. You're really missing out. So Jalen Warren, little risque, but in the 8th round, I'm fine taking that risk. I still think he's better than Najee Harris, but I do think that you should be taking Najee Harris over him because Jalen Warren is banged up. After Jalen Warren, Roma Dunze, 49ers defense, Austin Eckler, Keon Coleman, Ravens defense, Tajay Spears, Devin Singletary, Ezekiel Elliott, Ladd McConkey, Gus Edwards, Cortland Sutton, and Jordan Addison. This team just doesn't really give a shit about the wide receiver position. I guess they have the wide receiver 1 and 2. I mean, Keenan's pretty sus as your wide receiver 3, but they're building. What are they cooking in there? We're back up here. We got Pacheco on the squad, Josh Jacobs, ARSB, Amon-Ra St. Brown, DJ Moore, Wiki, Dalton Kincaid, Terry McLaurin, Jaden Riley Reed, and Jalen Warren. I have no clue why Kyler Murray is still available, but again, we're not going to take him here because I think it is unrealistic. Looking at running backs here, we might jump back into the wide receiver range here because I do think Terry McLaurin is a little bit more suspect than our running back core here. So we're going to go ahead and draft. I think Brian Thomas Jr. might be a reach here. His ADP keeps climbing. Pick 103. He could fall back to us here at the 10:06. Let's look at the rosters around us. There's something you want to do in your draft. Look at the other teams going on around you. So not all of these people have like an insane amount of wide receivers. Now, I think they're more likely to go running back, though. So if we don't take Brian Thomas, we might miss on him, right? We might not be able to get him. But I do want to go ahead and get... And like, I really do think Zach Moss is the guy in Cincinnati. But again, this is like the important depth that... Like, Chase Brown, if he ends up as the number 1 in Cincinnati, is a flex option weekly. Jerome Ford could be a flex option early on with Nick Chubb out. I like Brian Thomas Jr. better, though, because I think he could be a starter weekly. But based upon playing the ADP game, he might fall back to us. So we're going to go ahead and go with Chase Brown here, knowing damn well Brian Thomas probably will end up getting taken. But it's okay because this isn't a league where you need to be starting 4 wide receivers at a time. If you did, I would have taken Brian Thomas Jr. there. So after we went ahead and drafted Chase Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, Brian Thomas Jr. gets drafted, of course, Jameson Williams, Jerome Ford, Evan Ingram, Dallas Goedert, Tyler Lockett, Kyler Murray, Brock Bowers. So now it's time to take our quarterback. Now, while I believe basically every single team has a quarterback here besides the team in front of me in it to win it, maybe they're looking to draft Tua, so they're waiting. You know, the computer definitely has that type of intelligence. We're going to take our quarterback here because I know in my personal home league, people will take 2 quarterbacks sometimes before I even have mine. And then you start getting buried into a range at quarterback where it's like, I don't really love that guy being my quarterback number 1. So I'm going to take my QB1 here. It's between Caleb, Purdy, Tua Tagovailoa, Jaden Daniels. I'm going to go with Purdy. Now, if Ayuk ends up getting traded, that does ding Purdy slightly. It doesn't completely ding him, knock him off the edge of the earth, but it does make me a little bit less confident in him. He was the quarterback 6 last year, despite having limited rushing upside. He has one of the best offensive weapons around him, like offensive units. And while he did crumble in a couple of games, ultimately he was very consistent. So I'm going to go with Big Cock Brock Purdy, quarterback of the 49ers, who I feel very confident in the 10th round. After we went ahead and drafted Brock Purdy, Curtis Samuel, Jerry Jeudy, Trey Benson, Blake Corum, J.K. Dobbins, Jacoby Myers, Zach Charbonnet, Tyler Algier, Jake Ferguson, Romeo Dobbs, Chuba Hubbard, and Magic Mike Williams. If you wanted to take a second with quarterback with Purdy, I wouldn't hate that. But if Purdy ends up playing like he did last year, if you have Purdy and another quarterback, what you're probably going to be doing is playing quarterback roulette. You're going to be juggling quarterbacks weekly, and you're going to end up in a scenario where you're probably just starting the wrong guy all the time. I have found this to be true. I know this to be true, that when you take two quarterbacks and they're similar talents, a lot of the time, you're probably just going to end up starting the wrong guy. I do all the research every single week, and I know which quarterbacks I like each week, but sometimes you're just going to be wrong, right? I'm not going to be right 100% of the time. And then you start say, oh, let's go Purdy and Jaden Stormy Daniels, right? And then one week you start Daniels, and oh, fuck, if I had 3 more points, which Purdy got, I would have won. And you're like, okay, now I'll play Purdy. And then Daniels has the bigger game, and you're just going back and forth, and you end up just disappointed. This happened to me a couple of years ago when I was back in college. We were drinking at my friend's dorm room. I guess it wasn't their dorm room at the time. It was their apartment complex. Not going to dox where this was. It was one of the colleges in New Jersey where I live. Doxing myself, obviously. But there, I was chilling in the bathroom. I drank way too much. I was puking because, I don't know, I just didn't know how to drink enough correctly. I guess back then, like, there's something wrong with me. I haven't thrown up in years, though, so great success on that. But what I was doing is I was chilling in the bathroom after puking, and I was just sitting there, fucking Phillip Rivers versus Kirk Cousins. Phillip Rivers versus Kirk Cousins. My friends tell me this all the time, how funny that was, because I was in the bathroom on death's door. I was knocking on the gates, right? And I was just sitting there trying to figure out which quarterback to start. That tells you how dedicated I am to this shit. That's before I was even making videos. A true football guy, right? And another story of me being drunk back in the day is calling Cooper Kupp being a legendary wide receiver, which I called his rookie year. Not a video, though, but if you ask my friends, they'll tell you, my friends are very reliable. They've never lied about anything before. So we're back up on the clock here. I love Rico Dowdle, but we need some fucking wide receivers here. We're going to go ahead and go with Joshua Palmer here. I like Ladd McConkey better, but at value, Joshua Palmer falling to the 11th round and Ladd going a couple rounds prior. The value there is, hey, if Palmer ends up as the wide receiver 1, we've seen him play in the NFL before. He was solid when Keenan Allen and when Mike Williams were hurt. So I do like Mike Williams better, but I'm fine with Josh Palmer. After Josh Palmer, Rico Dowdle, Ty Chandler, David Njoku, Rashid Shaheed, Antonio Gibson, Dallas Goedert, Pat Freiermuth, Bears defense, Darnell, here comes the Mooney, and Adonai Mitchell. You don't want to draft a defense this early or like in the 8th round. Now, if you want to get a little bit overzealous, draft one in like the 13th round, sure. But I'm waiting until the last round to take mine, and I'm taking mine based upon their matchup in week 1, and sometimes their matchup in week 1 and week 2 in the perfect scenario. But we'll talk more about that as we get to the defenses. Josh Downs still hurt, uncertain to play in week 1 with the ankle sprain. He, though, does feel like the best receiver on Indy, not named Michael Pittman Jr. They've got Wick still available. Thielen, he's like the number 3 receiver on the Panthers. Why are you going to take that? I like Wicks, but we already got Reed. Gabe Davis, it feels like you know what you're getting out of Gabe Davis. You've drafted him. If anyone's drafted him before, you know what you're getting out of Gabe Davis. So you're not going to draft him here. So we're going to go ahead and draft Jalen Polk here, who could be the number 1 wide receiver on the Patriots. I know what you might be thinking, Nick. The wide receiver 3 on the Patriots isn't going to be very valuable. And while I understand that sentiment, and while they still have yet to name their quarterback 1, now maybe I've released this, and in the morning, Gerard Mayo fucking was coming around like Paul Revere. The English are coming, right? He's like, oh, it's Jacoby Brissett season, which kind of feels like it's going to be. Either way, though, Jalen Polk has been shining like a star in heaven that we can't reach. Shout out Troy Bolton. So I like Jalen Polk, Dalton Schultz, and we've seen wide receivers on the shitty Patriots be good before. Shout out Jacoby Myers. Dalton Schultz, Adam Thielen, Jalen Wright, the Bengals defense, Gabe Davis, Brandon Cooks, TJ Hushmanzada, just kidding, it's TJ Hawkinson, Kendre Miller, there's no way you should be drafting him, Khalil Herbert, Xavier, somebody touch him, I Leggett, Jaleel McLaughlin, and Marshawn Lloyd. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 running backs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wide receivers. So one more running back to close out things here. We're going to go ahead and select Jordan Mason, number 2 running back now, because Elijah Mitchell has been kicked off of the squad on IR, out for the season. Mason's been playing well in camp, like this guy Derek Brown is writing. They have another running back there as well, but I think that Jordan Mason will be the guy if Christian McCaffrey gets hurt. Christian McCaffrey is already hurt. Again, I don't wish injuries on McCaffrey, but he is on the cover of Madden, so maybe the Madden curse is going to bite him in the behind. After Jordan Mason, Caleb Williams, Ray Davis, Braylon Allen, Roshan Johnson, Bucky Irving, Demario Douglas, Jets, Cole Kmet, Jaden Daniels, Justin Tucker, and we're back up here. Going to go with our kicker first because I feel confident we'll get a defense we like to stream later. You can go with Aubrey, Bucker, Fairbairn, Sanders. You can go with whichever kicker you prefer. I want to go ahead and get Brandon Aubrey on our squad. And then for a defense, you want to be drafting a defense going up against a not-so-hot opponent in week number 1. The reason as to why you do that is because you're looking for a great matchup in week 1. Get that positive value in week 1. And then if they have a tougher matchup in week 2, you drop them like it's hot. The Falcons, pretty interesting because they're going up against Mr. Unlimited. The Steelers, pretty interesting because they're going up against Kirk Cousins in his first game as a Falcon. New play callers, new team as a whole. I love the Seattle Seahawks, though. They play up against 2 relatively soft opponents early on in the Panthers and in the Patriots. So I'm going to go ahead and go with the Seattle Seahawks defense here, which always knocks our grade down because they're the 22nd highest ranked defense. But in reality, all that matters is streaming defenses. I'll make videos every single week on this very channel that show you which defenses you want to be streaming. It is probably my most popular video every single week. So you guys should be hopping on the bandwagon, hitting that subscribe button if you haven't already, so you can see those videos. Because again, getting that edge every single week, very, very, very important. So our team here is Brock Purdy, Isaiah Pacheco, Josh Jacobs, ARRSB, DJ Moore, Dalton Kincaid, Terry McLaurin, Seahawks, Aubrey, Jaden Reed, Jalen Warren, Chase Brown, Joshua Palmer, Jalen Polk, and Jordan Mason. We've got all the J's, the big J journalists on our bench outside of Chase Brown. He's the odd man out. Thank you guys all so much for watching today's video. Again, make sure you guys hit that fucking subscribe button like it owes you some money. Leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. Link in the video description for the Patreon for your half PPR and full PPR rankings and cheat sheet. Check out one of the videos on your screen if you haven't seen them already. Love you guys all. Have a great one. We'll be back later with another video. Good boy.